what is sex for is quite the question. And the obvious answer that obviously comes to mind when it's brought up is like making babies. Well, sex makes babies. That's what it's for. Right. And clearly that's true given what you just shared about your life situation.
Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. Happy to be here, man.
Absolutely. My first and most important question is, how are you doing? Like, actually, for real, how are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you. What comes to mind is actually, I'll just kind of drop this in before answering the question, is I saw an Instagram video recently where it was a man, very like burly man's man with a big beard, looking at the camera, asking that question and pausing with so much sincerity and earnestness in his eyes and just like, no, really. So yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. And that video was super powerful. The comment section was just like full of people being like, I'm crying. So yeah, man, it's so powerful to just be really available for including more of who we are as human beings and the way that we relate to each other. So respect. I'm doing well. Life has certainly been immersive and nonstop for me lately on the personal and professional levels. And I feel very supported and a lot of appreciation and wonder flowing through my day to day for sure. How about you?
Right now, never had it so good, man. At the time we're recording this, it's September 12th. So my wife could give birth sort of at any moment. She could go into labor at any moment. So that means she's healthy. My baby's healthy. If everything else in the world was shit, I would still say everything's amazing because of that just miracle that's about to happen in the health of my wife and soon to be child. So that's my answer for that for sure. And will be probably till the end of time. Because I don't know if there's much else that I could need in this world. So yeah, I'm right there, Rob.
Beautiful. What a blessing. Yeah. It's your first child?
Yeah. First one. It's a boy, which fires me up. But I think a daughter, hopefully I can have a daughter next, whatever, God willing, it'll just happen. I think she'll change my life more in regards to how I see the world than having a son. But who knows? I don't know. I'm a first time dad, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll be flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, what I've heard from so many, I'm not a father, but what I've heard from so many is that the paradigm shift and the kind of rite of passage that you go through in that transition is you could never understand what that is until you go through it. So hell yeah, dude. Put your boots on.
Let's get to work. That's why it's the perfect conversation to have with you. So maybe I can teach some of this stuff to my son. But my first question is sort of just break it open a little bit is, why do you even care about men? Why do you even care about working with men?
Yeah. Well, I'll suspend diving into this question that we talked about before we started rolling of what is sex for? What is sex for is quite the question. And the obvious answer that obviously comes to mind when it's brought up is like making babies. Well, sex makes babies. That's what it's for. Right. And clearly that's true given what you just shared about your life situation. But why do I care working with men? Why do I care about this subject? Is kind of a second tier to that inquiry. I realized many years ago that with regards to the topic of sex, most men, and I mean this majority wise, I think most men have never had an honest, authentic, open conversation about the subject of sex ever. Literally ever. This part of our lives that's so critical to who we are as men and our relationality and our expression and creativity and our identity and self-esteem. We've never had an honest and grounded conversation about it ever. And the influences are let's say, super unconscious and not really related to what supports us to have good lives. It's like there's the sources of conditioning or education around this subject have basically nothing to do with what people actually need to be well and to be happy. And that's fucking weird, right? Where it's like the main source of our education has nothing to do with success. You know, the underpinnings of religious indoctrination, the impacts of pornography and, you know, Hollywood TV and movies or whatever, they didn't have anything to do with who you are as a person, who I am as a person, what men need to know to be successful and happy. It's all just weird shit. And it makes sense that people are not doing well in this department, given that nobody educated us in a sensible way. And we've been severely misled and are inside of all this kind of sick and distorted spheres of influence about the subject. So this is one, is me just seeing that, like, I've been having the best sex of my life over and over and over again because of, let's say, something around my own personal interests coinciding with having met a lot of very advanced practitioners and like mystics and spiritual teachers and people that kind of help me see the subject differently and start to investigate or explore or have sex in a way that was more expansive and like discovery and all this sort of stuff. And I felt for the first time in my life, probably in my late 20s, that I actually knew what sex was. That sounds kind of funny, but I remember when I was like in my early 20s and teens and throughout, just being like, I don't think anybody really knows what this is. I think that we're all very confused and have some sort of mythology impressed upon us, but we don't really know what this is and we don't really know how to be happy. And yeah, just seeing that confusion, and something inspired me in wanting people to be experiencing what I was experiencing. And there's certainly like specific things that happened in my life where circumstance or coincidence just kind of nudged me in the direction of seeing that this is something that I enjoyed and could be like a real way to contribute to people's lives, and not in like a superficial way, but in a real, like there's consequence here, and maybe what I can offer is unique. Um, so there's all that. And then there's one other thing that I was going to say. Let me see if I can remember. Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to say. It'll come back around.
It will come back if, yeah, if it's necessary. And then, thinking about men, then again, more broadly based on that, do you think in our society currently there's I don't know, I don't know if attack is the right word, on men or masculinity, on their essence? Is that why they're struggling more or less than they have before? I mean, you see suicide rates have increased. Do you think it all sort of coincides, or do you think it's sort of separate issues based on sex or dating or the patriarchy and masculinity, or do you think it's all one issue that's like sort of causing men to
Mm.
struggle? If
It's a
that makes
cool.
sense.
It does, yeah. And I guess I could break your question into a couple different ones. One is like, are there powers that be that are deliberately trying to emasculate us and promote anti-male sentiment? You know, like that's one kind of spooky question of like,
Hmm.
is there some fucking Illuminati lizard people like seeding dark perspectives of men and masculinity? Maybe. I don't think I have a super interesting take on that, but the sense of like, what is actually occurring and how is it consequential for people and for us as a society? I think there's so many layers and forces to this. And one of them is how male sexuality and sexual desire is not kind of held in dignity.
Mm.
I think that this is, or I'll put it like this: like, I've seen over and over and over and over again the like light bulb that goes off for dudes when I say something like, you know, the part of you that feels like not okay that you don't have an awesome sex life? Trust that. What if
Mm.
it's actually not okay that you don't have an awesome sex life and that there's real consequence to it, and that this is not like some perverted or immature part of you that you would be better off without, but maybe that sense that this matters, the sense that this has value and is really a worthwhile thing, or something that I care about truly. Like this I care about this. This matters to me, just like, me taking care of business and being responsible and having integrity. That being responsible for my sex life is a part of my intuition being like, yo, dude, this is important. That I've just seen that the affirmation of that causes men to like, their mind bends and they're like, oh, I've kind of been like rationalizing away this thing that I've known since I was 12, is like, I like this. This matters to me. I want this. Not having this sucks. It's like, that's true. It does matter. And not having it, it's like, I think about the word integrity, not from the perspective of like morals or whatever, but from wholeness. Integrity is about being intact. It's about being whole. It's about being in right relationship with who you really are as a man. And what it seems like is that if we do not take responsibility for our sexual lives, it's an integrity issue. It's like, this is necessary for me to respect myself, for me to feel like I'm doing right by me and the way that I'm living. And I think so many men just feel like their sexuality is not uh, it's not honorable. It's not included in their consideration of their legacy or what it is to be a role model or a person with integrity or something like that. So I think that this is one hugely impactful piece, is this kind of distorted lens of masculinity, masculine sexuality, or sexual desire being framed as like, this is just some primal or immature thing that we'd be better off without, or it's some bullshit indulgence and it doesn't really matter and you just need to focus on the things that do. But yeah, we could even zoom out more in your question of like, I think there's so many, let's say, tropes or messages in our society that are like, men would be better off not being the way that they are. This
Yep.
amazing teacher that do you know who Alison Armstrong is? You familiar with her work?
I am not.
She says a lot of smart things, but one thing that I appreciate about Allison is that there's so many things, but one thing that she said is that like, a man is not a hairy misbehaving woman.
I mean,
And it seems like that is the narrative, right? That's the narrative, that like, this is a hairy misbehaving lady. Like, what the fuck is wrong with him? Is like, no, that's a man. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a man. That's how he is. If you tell him that he shouldn't be that way, it's going to fuck him up and he's going to either resent you or get castrated by this
yeah,
narrative that he needs to be different than how he really is. Right. And
right.
that's not to say that like, this frame of like toxic masculinity or whatever is like, yeah, that we can look at like, how are we not honorable and integrity and taking responsibility for ourselves and our responsibility to provide and protect. Um, but yeah, I think that that's a very different thing, that like the call or the invitation to take seriously our lives and our responsibility as men is very different than anti-male sentiment. Like that sense of like, step up and like, let's work together to take responsibility for this world that we live in and for our communities and all that is a very different thing than like, how dare you have testicles and take up space and like to fuck and be loud, like, how dare you, is like, okay, sorry, I'm sorry that I'm like that. It's
Yeah.
painful and it's super confusing, and I think that it makes a lot of men who want to be honorable and have integrity look to feminizing themselves. That I see
Yeah.
so many men kind of turn towards like, okay, well then how do I be more feminine if I want to have integrity? I can't just be a dude. And that's super confusing. And then I think it also goes in the other direction where a lot of men are like, absolutely no. Then they're just like, fuck all those people that try to tell me that we should improve. Because like, what are you even talking about? You told me that I shouldn't even be a man. So obviously
Mhm.
you have no idea what is sensible advice.
Yeah. Yeah, there's gotta be a huge difference between, like, attacking the essence of what a man is and saying that in and itself, no matter what you do, is toxic. Like, that's messed up. Because I mean, again, I told you I work with a lot of young men, And if I'm 16 years old and trying to figure my whole life out, and the messaging I get is like, the essence of me is no matter what, no matter if I'm a really good big brother to my sister, no matter if I'm doing the chores in my house and I'm trying to be the best person I can be, my essence is toxic because I
Yeah,
am a man. That is
exactly.
much different than saying, hey, dude, you're not holding yourself accountable. You're not being
Exactly.
responsible. You're not
Yeah.
being the man that I know you can be.
Yes,
Those two things are
exactly.
hugely different. And I can
Love
tell
that.
that from like just being coached as an athlete. Like if I knew that my coach loved me and he cared about me, the human, the man in front of him, then he could say whatever he wanted to me and I was going to listen, like in terms of him giving me feedback. Like, Aaron, you're slacking. What's this
Yeah.
90% bullshit you're giving me? Let's pick it the fuck up. And then when we're off the field, he's like, I love you. What's going on with your life? How can I help you? Like
Yeah.
that's the conversation we need to have. And so instead of like telling, like again, attacking the essence of a human being, we would never say that about a female. Well, I hope we wouldn't. I hope we don't get to that point. I know some men probably do because, that's the extremes we go to in our culture. But
Mm.
we don't do that to all. We don't say if the world would be better off if all women were gone. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
We would have no world.
Yeah.
Like we'd have no. And the same thing goes for men. We would have no society if there was no men. And so that's the point where I get like a little frustrated. Not a little, a lot frustrated. I'm kind of getting a little riled up here. But anyways, I'll let you
Yeah,
take the
dude.
floor
I
from
mean,
that.
me too, Aaron. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you and I agree with you. And I think that it just gets so sloppy and unproductive. And when I think about the practical solution, one of them might actually be such a simple thing. I first learned this from a music teacher who used to work at Apple. So taking taking this into left field here for a second, but the difference between general and specific feedback is so critical that if people it's like, yeah, bring it through in connection and with love and compassion and seeing the humanity in the person, step one. But also just on a practical level, if you give people general negative feedback, it is very defeating. Where it's like, you're bad is like, well, fuck. Of being like, no, like this specific thing that you are doing, you could improve on. And here's the consequences of it, you doing it this way versus that way is like, oh, now I can just do shit. Right. It's like men love it when they can just handle business and be effective and competent. When men are not able to be competent, it's fucking devastating. And if the premise is like, you're bad, then it's like, well, fuck. I don't know how to change who I am, but the sense of like exactly as you're saying, like this one particular thing that you're executing on or not executing on is consequential, and here's how you can improve is just like it's actionable. Just do something differently. If you're in agreement with that feedback, you can literally just take action and resolve the issue versus like, how dare you be a man? Is like,
Right.
well, I have no say in the matter, so fuck you. Or like, let me just cave into this sense of shame or emasculation or resentment or whatever it is, like that's a very real thing. So, I think maybe highlighting here the value of specific feedback, and also, as you're saying, like love and compassion and encouragement and seeing the humanity in someone, even if you want to call them into change or accountability or whatever, like that's it's hugely important. And one thing that I can double click on that I just said is I think men, it is utterly devastating when men are not competent in something that they care about. And I think when it comes to women and it comes to sex, we are in a extreme distortion of, well, I'll zoom out here and feel free to redirect if you have another way that you want to take our chat here, man. But what I can say is that like, in my story and in talking to so many men about this, there's a pretty universal experience that men report where it's somewhere between like age 8 and 12. We start to realize that we have a sexual side, that there's this sense of like, maybe I don't even know what that is, but I like that. This is intriguing. And then very quickly that turns into confusion, shame, isolation. And then there's this gap between my interests and how to live in a way that I want. And another way of saying that is like, there are girls at school that I like or that I'm attracted to. And then there's this part of me that I think is super compelling, but I have no idea how those two things connect. And then maybe I get exposed to porn and I have all of this imagery and indoctrination and messaging that's kind of coming through this channel. But that happens totally in private. I hide it. I'm ashamed about it, maybe, maybe not. But, anyways, the premise is like there's this part of me that at its base is super innocent and compelling for me. But then I hide that. I'm alone in it. It's kind of confusing. I don't know how to be competent in creating what I actually want in this area of life. And I think that this is so hugely consequential for men and their development and their self-esteem. And I think that the fact that we don't feel honored and appreciated and competent in our sexuality impacts people's sense of themselves and their self-esteem and their identity and the way that they carry themselves and walk around, and even the way that people kind of subconsciously pick up on and understand how to treat this guy or consider him is all hugely affected by this like weirdness in us not knowing how to, let's say, steward our sexuality and our sexual desires in life. Where it was like, hey, I care about having money. And it's like, great. Well, like, here's a way that you can be competent in that, of this sense of like, oh, I care about having great sex or giving women amazing orgasms or expressing these different parts of my arousal. And then it's like, okay, well, you're totally on your own figuring that out, and you probably are given information that's not going to help you at all. And then you just have to eat shit and just kind of proceed through life being incompetent in an area that is fundamental to who you are and what you care about. And that is utterly devastating for men in a way that I think almost nobody takes seriously or even sees in the first place. That, like, the inability to create what you actually want sexually is hugely impactful in your health and your energy level and your identity and the way that other people see you. Like, it is devastating for people. And to flip that around, I think that when men experience real appreciation and devotion from a woman that they love in sex, it completely changes their lives.
Mhm.
That, like, I think, like, men, and this gets a little explicit here, but like most men have never ever experienced having their cock worshipped or feeling like their true fuck is deeply received and puts a woman into her bliss and her adoration of him in a way that isn't like performative or pornographic or whatever. So like that experience is so incredibly validating and formative for men, and most men have never had that. And then they go through their lives feeling off. And I think they are off, right? Where it's like, this gets into things that I think can be very helpful for people to hear, is like, we're in this, like, let's not shame people for their sexual behavior, like, even if it's pathological, arguably. And I think that that's, the same thing as like fat shaming or whatever, people that are just kind of like pissing away the opportunities of their life, to just be like, maybe you should feel shame. Like, shame not in the sense of what you were saying before, of like, it's not like I'm inherently wrong, it's like what I'm doing is not okay. Like,
Mhm.
this is not okay, right? And I think that as it relates to sex and success, this is an interesting frame to bring in. Like, I think it's very constructive to frame your sexual life as being successful or not, and having an operable orientation to results and responsibility. It's like, am I successful given, like, this is what I want and this is what I'm experiencing? That's what success is about, basically. Is like, have I achieved what would be most fulfilling and meaningful for me or not? And do I take responsibility for that? And I think that when men do not know how to take responsibility for the things that they care about, it is utterly devastating for their sense of themselves and for their masculinity. And part of this thing that you're talking about is like, when you're shamed for that part of you, this masculine attribute for competence and success, it fucks you up and it causes mental health issues and confusion, because it's like, this is in me. And now I need to be like, well, I guess I shouldn't be ambitious or take pride in my fitness or physique, or take pride in my sexual life, or care about my sexual desires being fulfilled or whatever. That it's, people get all knotted up, and it fucks them up inside. And I think there's no way around this, and it should, because this is an integrity issue. And yeah, I can reiterate this over and over again, is that, like, the fact that this feels bad is right. Like it's
Yeah.
like that's your instinct being like, dude, change this. This is not what you're meant to be experiencing. This is not healthy. This is not right for you. You would be way more empowered and successful, and it also flips into like this is also better for women. Like women are not benefiting from the fact that men don't take their sexuality seriously and see it with honor and dignity, and that their contribution and their penis and their penetration is a gift to women. And there's a point where that flips into grandiosity and just some other kind of nonsense. But that's, there's many layers here. So I'll pause,
Yeah.
see how it's landing for you.
Well, the word that always comes up for me is like this two words of useful and useless. Um, and I think when men start to feel useless, then things start to really take a downturn. But I don't think they relate that to their sexual health, and
Yes.
I think that that might be the issue. I mean, just on personal experience, right? I grew up, a lot of sports, a lot of porn. So you think like men should sort of be dominating in the bedroom. It should be all about sort of us and what we need, and then it turns into like very quick sort of sex, and then get in, get out sort of thing, and then like when you do talk to your boys about it, it's like sort of a status symbol, like how
Yeah.
many girls can you sleep with and not how many great relationships can you have. And, then it just like all these things start to blossom. And I had a couple experiences that really opened my eyes up to like, dude, you're doing this all fucking wrong. You're not even enjoying what's happening. Like, figure
Mhm.
it out. Right.
Yes.
And then you have to take a deeper look into who I am as a person. And then it's like the sort of the first time I realized that like my sexual health is actually part of my whole being,
Yes.
not just like separate things. Like I could crush it at work or crush it here, but there was always this part of me that like felt off. And I was like wondering why, like I'm doing these things that I want to do. Why am I
Hmm.
feel like I'm not reaching my full level of like whatever you want to say, like greatness or, I don't know, some word that you get my point. Right. And so
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of like, that's where your work obviously is what you do. But like, do you feel like a lot of guys feel the same way? As like we can just put this
100%.
thing to the side
100%.
and
Yes.
I can try and be great elsewhere. Anyways, go ahead. Yeah.
Absolutely, Aaron. Yes. What you're saying it so perfectly. It's like, and I love that you frame this as like useful versus useless, because I think a lot of men feel like their sexual desires are useless.
Hmm.
It's like, this isn't helpful for me. This is a fucking nuisance. I'm horny all the time. What the fuck? Like, like how is this related to the man that I want to be and what I actually care about? And then it creates this fragmentation because you can't stop being horny and you can't stop liking girls. Like, you can't do that. It's not possible. So the fact that we don't hold this in honor and integrity is such a schism in our mind, right? Like, I think from my perspective, and let's say it's a unique one because of what I do for a living and have a lot of these conversations and really think about this a lot, it's like it seems so obvious to me how unbelievably consequential it is that people don't hold their sexuality with dignity and honor, and take seriously the success and usefulness of their sexual expression and their sexual desires. Right, like that sense of like, what if my desires and my horniness is actually my contribution to the world, or part of it anyhow? Like, this is a contribution. My life force, my vitality, my virility is a contribution, the same way other parts of my creativity are a contribution. Because sex is like our most basic creativity, right? Like, literally, it's like the way that you fuck, the way that you make babies. This is creative, it's expression. Right. It's like we can think about expression is like saying words, but like sneezing is a kind of expression, or exhaling or coming or whatever. Making a child is a kind of expression of your creativity. Right. So the sense of like my primality, the way that I express love through the the way that I make love to a woman or the way that I fuck a woman is a contribution. It's a expression. It's a part of my provision as a man, as a part of my embodiment and my wholeness as a man, and not anything else. Because otherwise it turns into addiction. It turns into some like kind of perverted or like neurotic thing that is not included in my values and in who I really am, but I can't help it. So it's just like this weird tumor on the side of my life. I think this is so confusing for men. It's so because you cannot stop being horny and wanting to have sex. You can't do that. It doesn't work. You can't, if you figure out how to do that, it will fuck up your testosterone. It will fuck up your health. It will fuck up your prostate. It will fuck up your balls. It will change your posture, the way that you walk around. Like, I think people, like, even like their testicles and their dick are like pulled up into their body because we don't feel comfortable just being a man. Right, like this sense of like, can I really just like let my dick and my balls like leave them alone, just and like not superimpose it, like, oh, I hope that I'm not in the way that I just am in my body, right? Like it's such a distorted thing that we all live inside of when we think about like a natural environment where our innocence is supported by the environment that we grew up in. That's not what happens with most things, but absolutely with sex.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, you go online and you hear people, women specifically, say, men don't need sex, and that's like a weird phrasing. Like, I don't know exactly what you mean by need, but I think they kind of do need it. We do need it. Um, and then you relate it to like, I don't know. I think she related it to like priests or something who like don't have sex ever. And like, I'm not sure that's a great example, but like, that's a weird sort of phrasing because I think then that phrasing comes from women just assuming we're like just these like weird sort of sexual things that
Yeah.
just need to like get
You're a
off and like
hairy,
that's it.
misbehaving woman, Aaron.
Right. Instead of like a real human being who like wants to also be taken care of and wants to be
Yes.
loved and wants to be appreciated. Like
Yes.
I want to feel those things from my wife.
Yes.
And because yeah,
And that
anyways,
is
like what
such an honorable part of you that should be celebrated and taken seriously. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like she could be a dutiful wife and do a good job at fucking appeasing you or whatever. It's like, yeah, I interrupted you. Sorry. Please continue.
no, I go train. That was just my train of thought. If you have anything off that, go for it.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll say something politically incorrect and fucking hope that it lands for some people in the audience because like this, like, what if she needs to figure out how to meet a man sexually? It's not even like men don't need to have sex. It's like, what if you need to figure out how to meet a man's needs? What if that's what you need, lady? What if your awakening and your healing and you stepping into a better version of yourself literally is about you getting down on your knees or being fucked and like learning how to deeply honor a man's sexual expression is for you. It's not even for him. Yeah, it's for him, but like what if you're avoiding your own evolution and your own growth and the relationship with your actual feminine essence by not taking seriously the perfection of the union between man and woman? What if you learning how to deeply honor and devote yourself to the fulfillment of a man's sexuality is where you will find your greatest expression?
Mm, yeah, I hope she hears that.
Yeah, right. And it's like this is if you see what the women who have really been through the crucible, like that they've been on their own hero's journey with this stuff, they'll tell you that like my contracted immature feminine ego was obliterated by my man's desire. Like my bullshit had to get out the fucking window by me being like, I'm devoted to you. I am here to fully honor and receive and circulate your expression through my body and my pussy and my womb and my heart and my eyes and my hands. Like I'm here to receive you and meet you and worship you here as a way that women are forced out of their contracted like wounding of protecting themselves from men. It's like it's so real. I've seen this in my own personal life. I've seen it in people that I've worked with. Is like it's not only like yeah, men need sex and women should show up for that. It's like no, no. It goes way further. It is there's a perfection. There's a sense of like what if the full integration or the full metness of like a man learning how, and this is kind of what you were saying before, is like part of our realization or our evolution as men comes with understanding what it actually is to meet a woman's emotional and sexual needs. Right. And it's interesting because we look at different, we could say like patterns or themes systemically, or if we zoom out more, where I think a lot of people's relationship with the feminine is the same as colonization, where it's basically like there's a thing over there, like call it a, I don't know, to use some charged narrative here. What I'm not going in a social justice direction here, but just saying like if there's like indigenous people and like a piece of land or whatever, it's like I go to that place and just fucking impose my ideas and extract shit out of it and like force myself upon it. Right. Or I can understand the landscape of what is actually going on and have a synergistic and beautiful relationship with that. And I think this is the same premise, basically, that a lot of men experience their sexuality and experience women. And then it's this thing of like, back to Alison Armstrong's frame, it's not like this is not an emotionally indulgent and soft man, it's a woman. Right. So it's like what do we discover about ourselves by learning about one another and learning how to meet one another and love one another is such a deep and two-way street. Right. So there's the sense of like, how can I find my own refinement and evolution as a man, and understanding how to meet a woman's emotional and sexual needs has been one of the greatest teachers of my life. But then there's also a crack in the pavement there, where when we think that means we need to be emasculated, we're playing the wrong game. And this is where I see a lot of people who want to be loving partners just get all fucked up in codependency, where the man is trying to basically meet some sort of projection of what healthy male female dynamics are, instead of honoring who he really is and figuring out what is truly a win-win instead of compromise.
Yeah.
Right. So this is huge too, where I think it plays in so many different directions, from women being like, well, I would love to meet your needs if you were different. And men being like, well,
Yeah.
I'll just tuck my tail between my legs and be like, yes, honey, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, that is not what I'm talking about. That is not at all what I'm talking about. What I'm proposing here is that like there's another way where both in our, let's say, exalted or whatever expressions of ourselves have synergy and like a deep beauty in the erotic and relational and emotional dynamics that can play between men and women, that, as far as I can tell, is just a million times better than any alternative that you could ever dream up. And that takes skill. Like, it's a learning, because we are living inside of this completely fucking weird culture that has no idea what this is. We don't know what healthy masculinity is or healthy femininity is. We don't know what healthy male female dynamics are, what healthy sex is. So, when people learn about my work, they often assume all kinds of like weird shit, because they think that like sexual liberation means we're going to like have orgies and swinger parties and we got a fucking butt plug while we're like, having sex with 19 of your neighbors while you're hanging from a chandelier, is like what people think. When it's like, oh, like when we talk about human sexual potential and having the most amazing sex life that you can, most people jump to this like completely fucking weird fantasy world that's largely related to porn, just
Mhm.
getting more and more extreme with way more spectacle, ongoing novelty. It's just kind of pushing the dopamine buttons in our head, and finding ways to, maybe one last thing that I'll say is like, what I was going to say is that like in porn, we see all of these things that I think are in part just like the dopamine button. But another part is like, we're trying to figure something out as a collective, for example, in how much the degradation and objectification of women is present in porn, that I think that this is in many ways is related to the fact that men are longing to be honored. They are longing to feel the devotion and the surrender of a woman, and they don't. So then the pendulum swings completely into crazy land, instead of just being like, wow, I actually just want to feel a woman really honoring me and devoting herself to me, to being like, I want to throat fuck 9 girls that I've never met before. It's just kind of like, okay, I think we missed center, gentlemen. I think it's like, what is the point where you're this actually like, and I think a lot of guys might be like, well, I do want that. If I could have a magic wand, I would pick that. I want that. Right. And I think it's like, yeah, but I think that in most cases, this is because we don't actually understand what would be truly fulfilling. So we're in this like crackhead fantasy space with how we conceptualize what our sexuality is and what sexual fulfillment would come from.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, off that, I think a lot of guys are scared to say that they want a submissive woman who admires them and brings peace into their life. That's what I want.
Yes. I mean, just the sense
Like,
of like what dude does not want, and we can also flip it to what is for the woman. Like what dude does not want to give whoever he's with the most amazing orgasms of her life over and over again?
it's fucking
Nobody.
awesome.
Nobody does. Like nobody, right? But it's like it's somehow like bold to say that somehow for me to be like, yo, this is what we all want. Yes, it is. You know what I mean? Like we all want to be worshiped and adored and devoted to by by a loving, sexually open woman, and we all want to feel competent in our ability to rock her fucking world. That's what we want. It's okay. It's like
Yeah.
it's not just okay, that's awesome. Everybody wins. That's good for everybody. Like there's a little more pep in your step and twinkle in your eye. You feel more powerful. Other dudes being around you being like, this dude feels solid. He's not like, women feel comfortable around men who have that, where it's like it's not like I'm not owning this part of me. So then it comes out sideways because I can't suppress the essence of who I am. Right? It's like I think that this is you cannot get away from these inherent desires. They just come out sideways. You can't like really, there's no way around it. And I think even part of this like cunty Karen energy in our culture is maybe some sort of desperate attempt for women to get a man to step up and be like, shut the fuck up. Like I think that there's a almost like an invitation of like they want, and this is I'm just like going on a limb here, but I do see sometimes that it seems like the solution, the resolution of this particular expression of immature and dysfunctional femininity is a man lovingly and clearly being firm with like, this is not okay, and stop. That do you know what I mean? It's almost like there's a lot, the misbehavior is almost instigating the appropriate response from the masculine, but it never gets it. It's like, God, these crazy fucking bitches and fuck you, get away from me. Instead of just like, hey, I love you and like this is fucking crazy and it will not stand. And I
Hmm.
think that this is like we're missing the integration of the way that the immature feminine actually gets met and corrected is by integrated mature masculinity being like, yo, stop. No. So it's like I wonder how much that is the imprint if we look at the collective consciousness as having intentions or whatever. I think there is a part of like we're flailing and trying to figure out how to integrate all of this wounding and confusion. Right. And I think, there are so many expressions of this. There's so many expressions of this. And some of it is our own shame, where a lot of men are like, oh, I feel ashamed of my like porn and masturbation habits. And it's like, maybe you should, bro. Like, it's like, and the same, the sense of like, maybe that's an intelligence in you. Like there's remorse, there's an instinct that's like, this is off. This is not right. I don't want to be like jerking off into a sock or whatever to some people that I'll never meet in my life who are probably very fucked up that I would actually not have any semblance of a healthy relationship with, even if I knew them. Right. Like that's the sense of like, your energy, your creative and sexual energy is just being blown out down a drain of uselessness instead of integrated into something that actually is life-giving and beautiful and healthy. So this is the thing, like back to this thing around integrity and wholeness and being intact is like, is your sexual energy being channeled into something that actually has value, or is it perverted and weird and corrupted, or just being blown out and wasted?
Yeah. Like, I mean, the prime example of that is like when we masturbate, or at least when I did when I was like younger, it was like, how can I do this? Especially if I'm watching porn, how can I do this as quick as possible
Yes.
so no one catches me
Yes.
and no one knows that I did it? if that doesn't give you the most truest sign that this shit is not something you should be doing, like if you're about to rob a bank, you don't just stay in the bank for like hours on end, like fucking hoping someone catches you. No, you're trying to get in and out because that shit's bad. We
Yeah.
know it's bad. And the same sort of intuition we have, maybe not when we're like 8 or something when we're seeing it for the first time, but like we've done it a couple times. Maybe we're like 13, 14, right? We're just like in our room in our house, our door's like semi-closed because our parents don't want us to keep our door fully closed. I'm like, okay, gotta go to finish. Like I'm down,
Yeah.
got it. Like
Yeah.
we have that intuition that we know, like that felt icky. That was not right. That's
Yes.
wrong. But then
Yes.
we keep doing it and doing it, and it has to get worse and worse and
Yes.
worse and worse and worse. And then,
Yes.
we do know
Yes.
we have a really good sense of that.
Yes.
I think we just lose it. But I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
100%, man. And I think that the reason that this happens is, again, is like men can't help being horny and desirous. They can't, and they shouldn't, honestly. It's good. Like, it's good. I fully believe that male sexuality and sexual desire is inherently a force of good, except when it's corrupted and weird and out of integrity, right? Like that. And then it also is a source of living in alignment with your own sense of usefulness and competence and responsibility. And what I mean by that is, like, if as a man you don't understand how to channel your sexual energy into something that is useful and healthy, you'll accidentally channel it down the drain. Right. That I feel like a lot of men don't understand how to have success with women and how to have success in their sexual lives. So it's like, okay, I would rather just not feel frustrated or just like totally fucked up or just like lost in the level of horniness that I'm experiencing. I would rather relieve that pressure or charge or tension. And I think this is the crux is literally about success or winning, the same way that it is in sports, where it's like, yo, I have this desire to win and to excel and to have camaraderie. So we channel that desire into being successful. And I think that we do, and it's like, for example, if there was no culture of training in baseball, you would lose like against people that had a culture that was about like a effective way to train how to channel your desire to be successful. And this is what's happening in sex, is that we do not know how to channel our desire for success with women and success in sex into the result that we're looking for. So then we just blow it down the drain, right? Like, and it's more complicated than that, but it's also very basic, where it's like, if you knew how to channel this energy into something that would be awesome, you would do that instead. But even when guys do know how to, like, when they're attractive and they can get a girl home or whatever, they're married and their relationship is good, there's still the sense of like, I feel so much shame and confusion about my sexuality. So I would rather go to porn where there's no other person. It's not complicated. I don't need to be like, oh, how do I do this or whatever? Because there's nobody there. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Right. So then there's the sense of like, I don't actually know how to channel my sexual power in relating with a woman. So I don't know how to do that. The sex that I have with a woman is like, I'm in a little box, like there's this weird fear. And this is where my work gets into like deep stuff around healing trauma and looking at our personas and shadow work and all this shit, because a lot of men feel like these different ranges in their sexual expression, like the part of them that just wants to take and ravish a woman or whatever, that they can't bring that because they need to be a good feminist or yada, 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 or like their wife wouldn't want that or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nobody is winning. Nobody is having a good time because we don't understand how to channel these parts of us into a meeting point where both of us are in our full yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. No one's having a good time because we're trying to think about what the other person thinks they think they might want, and they want, and I want what they want, what she wants, what they're thinking about, what I'm thinking about. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's all this sorts of fucking confusion that happened. It's
So
like,
much.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. I mean, easily when I started having the best sex of my life, it was when I met my wife, because I actually felt like I could trust her. She felt safe with me. And then this, like, you start talking about these things and you're growing in these types of things. And like I mentioned previous, right before I met my wife, probably 8 months before that, I had two of the worst sexual encounters of my life that really opened up my eyes to like actually start, thinking about these types of things and what I do want and what makes me happy and how it feels good for me and all these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we don't have to. Maybe next time we talk, we can go deep dive into my personal story. But my next question is, or maybe to wrap up this conversation, which I feel like we're going to have maybe a few more based on just how we've been talking today. But what if the guy right now is listening to this and they're not having any sex, Rob?
Mm.
They're not even close to any sort of sexual encounter. So this sort of information maybe doesn't land with them. Where would you start with someone like that?
Yeah. Let me answer some or respond to something that you said, and then we'll jump over to that question. But just in
Sure.
short, what I can say is like you just described perfectly what happens where people are in their head. They're having sex like my body is a brain taxi. Like they're like the little, you remember in Men in Black from the 90s how like there's like a little alien inside of the fucking head of the like human suit. It's like a
Yeah.
lot of people have sex like that. It's like I'm this like little man inside of my head and it's a like my body is a brain taxi for this thing, this cognitive thing that's going on. And that is not how you have great sex. It's not. The way that you have the kind of sex that is truly fulfilling is from body intelligence. It's not from cognitive intelligence. Like it's important to like have some basic understanding. I think that every man should have at least a little bit of training in like anatomy and technique and this sort of stuff. But like the biggest thing that is the unlock for people opening into all of these realms of sexual possibility and pleasure that they don't even know exist is when they stop having sex from their mind and they learn how to really get in their body and to allow their
Mm,
impulses and their feelings to be what moves through them, like the instincts and the intuition of body and of the like what is sexual love, what is natural sexual expression for body intelligence is something that most people don't have any connection to because they're just doing the choreography of sex that they learned. It's not, you know what I mean? People are like, oh, I'm going to click on fucking exe and just like execute the programming. Right. And if I'm like being a good feminist, I'll double click on foreplay exe first. Right. It's like that's the thing. So, that shift and in the work that I do, we've really demystified and laid out a process for shifting from cognitive intelligence to body intelligence and the kind of let's say the possibilities that people open into, both in terms of like the depth of orgasm that them and their partners have, and just a deeper sense of fulfillment, and bringing all these ranges of the part of me that just really likes to fuck, and the part of me that feels really emotionally tender, and the part of me that's like very silly and just like in the joy of sex. Like, how do I bring all of these parts of me in a way that's not performative or contrived, but is really just emergent and natural? Because I think that's what we all want, is to just feel like ourselves and to feel free and to feel met and to feel celebrated in that, and to experience the woman that we're with in her deepest bliss and adoration is like pretty
mhm.
universal, that we all want that, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. um yeah, and I'm around. I'm not hard to find if people are curious about this, and I'm happy to have another interview with you and we can get more practical, tactical. But to your question of like what do guys do when they are feeling alone and they don't know. And I think before we started rolling, we were talking about how um, when we look at having a better sex life, one of the biggest issues that people have is they don't have anyone to have sex with. And yeah, so this is kind of in the category of dating advice or seduction or this sort of stuff. And there's a whole bunch of weird shit on the internet that you can find from pickup artists and all that. And there's also a lot of really beautiful, well-intending teachers in that space too. But, one of the most important things is from what I've seen, I mean, online dating is so not my field. And when I was single, that was not my thing. But what I think this actually grows on top of is how poor most people's social skills are,
Mm,
and how much we are isolated and how much we almost like pretend that we're not interacting with each other. And what I mean by that is like if you're like at a bar or at a cafe standing in line to get coffee or whatever, And it's like, you sense the woman standing next to you, this, this beautiful lady standing next to you, and she senses you too. And we're just pretending that we're not interacting. That's fucking weird. Like, it's like there's an incoherence because it's like we're clearly interacting, but we're pretending like we're not. And I would say that, like, there's a very basic shift in just being honest, where a lot of men start to have more success with women when they stop lying and they stop deceiving themselves. And it's like, oh, I'm attracted to that woman. She just looked at me. Let me be like, hey, I feel like engaging with, you know what I mean? And like whatever words you say is kind of secondary in a way to just, being more social, being more open with people, being more engaging, and finding your authentic way to be open and communicative and engaging with the people that you're already interacting with. That, a lot of men kind of can get into this Candyland idea of like, oh, I gotta get on dating apps and it's just math and I gotta like get the sheer numbers up to find a good one and yada, yada, yada. It's like, maybe, or maybe you just need to talk to the women that are already around you and just like one foot in front of the other and just see how it flows. And yeah, you could, argue against that. But from what I've seen from, witnessing a ton of men go from long dry spells and no success with women to having more access to sex and women than they have time or interest, it usually just starts with talk to the people around you, and not even the like hottest girl, like literally just talk to the people that you're already interacting with. Wish people a good morning when you walk by them. Be like, hey, what's up? When you're standing next to somebody in line to get coffee, just get in the practice of being socially engaged. And the way that I think about this is like, if you're walking down a hallway and you're not checking to see what doors are open, you're never going to know what doors are open.
Mm.
And I think that there's so many doors open, not just for opportunities for intimacy, but opportunities for friendship, for business opportunities, for collaboration, for whatever, because they're not checking if the door is open. And if the door's open, then you can be like, hey, what's in this room? Is it for me? No. Next. But a lot of men are like, oh, maybe I think she's not my type. It's like, you've never even spoken to the girl. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, it's like, oh, she's too pretty for me. She's not pretty enough. She seems busy. I don't want to bother her. I don't want to come off as a creep. I think that guy's her boyfriend. I think that she reminds me too much of my ex-girlfriend. I don't like her nose. I don't think I'd like her butt. It's just like, yeah, get out of your head. If you like, get out of your head. It's the same thing with sports training, is like, if you're just busy with thinking about how to succeed, you're not training. You're not creating opportunities for success and progress. And it's the same with social life. Like, you need to engage, you need to interact, you need to be open and available for connection, and be open and available for other people to reveal to you who they are and what their interests are. Or we all just end up sitting on our phones, fucking scrolling Instagram or Tinder or whatever, hoping that we're going to hit the jackpot. And it just doesn't happen. Like, most people are extremely lonely and isolated. And again, the women are not happy either. It's like, how many fucking horny women are in your neighborhood alone while you're horny and alone? It's like, there's such a disconnect, and we are all intensely isolated, and nobody wants to be, and nobody knows how to change that. And it's not that simple. It's not that complicated. Like, it's very, very basic. Just interact with people, be open, share, to be like, hey, I noticed you. I'm curious about you. What's your name? That's a totally fine way to start a conversation with a grown ass man or a beautiful woman. Anybody, to be like, hey, I've noticed you a few times. I'm John, or whatever. It's like, that's a totally fine way to check the door, to be like, hey, is the door open? Is there anything in there that's interesting to me?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think important off that is like, it's like a zero sort of no agenda type of conversation. There's no real, like, maybe if you see like a hot chick, like obviously maybe the end goal is like, I'd like to have sex with her at one point, but that's not really on the top of your brain. Like, when you're talking to her, you're just like, oh, she's like here. I've seen her at the coffee shop 4 days in a row. Every time at the gym, she's here at the same time as me. Let's just see what's up.
Yeah.
Maybe she's got some cool or whatever. Like, and then maybe it leads to something, and then eventually the end goal might mean like, I want to have sex with her, which is cool. But like, initially, you're just trying to introduce yourself to another human and see where that goes. Because I see dudes in the gym all the time that I want to talk to. I'm most impressed with dudes at the gym because I'm like, oh, that dude's here every day. He's fucking getting jacked. I'm gonna go fucking tell him. That's sweet, right?
Yeah.
And so it could be the same thing with a hot girl. But then it's like, well, what if they think I'm creepy? What if they film me? What if I get put on the internet? Fuck it, dude. Like, if you live your life totally scared of anything that's going to happen ever, nothing cool is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And I know that's easier said than done because, every time that I hit on a girl at a bar or when I was in school or whatever, there was no chance someone was going to film me. And so I
Yeah.
get the hesitation behind it. But still, like, if you want to live a life that's meaningful and awesome and powerful and, connected with other people, you're going to have to take some chances.
For sure. Yeah. And I think, as with most things, the risks are not as steep as our, dumb monkey mind might try to tell us that it is.
Right.
And, I think that it's as with anything, the first steps are hard. And like life is, I love this metaphor that like life is like riding a bike. Like if you're not moving, staying upright on a bike is fucking hard. It's very difficult. But it's like once you're moving, it's a hell of a lot easier to keep your balance. So the practice of being like, oh my God, I've never talked to a girl in public before. I've never walked up to someone I'm attracted to or anybody at all ever and started a conversation is like, yeah, that's new, dude. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. Start small, like don't go up to a supermodel, just talk to an old lady, ask her what time it is. You know what I mean? Like just get in the habit of talking to people. And I can imagine that a lot of guys might hear what you just said, Aaron, and be like, well, I do want to have sex with her. Like, look at that ass. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but part of the reason why you're so charged up with your sexual desire is because you're not succeeding. You're not winning in your sexual life. So there's so much pent up energy and charge.
Yeah.
And the last 300 interactions you've had with sexy women are alone at your computer jerking off. So it's like, how do we calibrate our sexuality to actual women instead of this one-way street of this incredibly fucking weird thing called porn, where it's mostly women who are in self-abandonment and self-exploitation and like very, very weird shit. So how do we actually shift our sexuality to being about real women and our actual embodiment instead of this like weird crackhead thing in these like very neurotic, pathological women that we don't even know? It's like, it's wild, But again, that recalibration is weird because it's new. It's uncomfortable to be like, wow, like what would it be like to seal off my sexual energy to weird shit and commit to channeling it healthfully and in integrity as if that could happen? It's
Yeah.
powerful to take that stand of like, I'm done suppressing it. I'm done rationalizing it away. I'm done blowing it down the drain. I'm going to contain and conserve this energy and learn how to channel it in a way that is healthy and aligned with my values and a contribution even to the woman that I love to make love to, or the woman that I love to fuck, or the woman I'd love to suck my dick or like worship my cock is like great. There are ways that that can happen in a way that is everybody is winning.
Yeah. Well, I can ask you more questions, but we'll pause there for now.
Sure.
And
I'm happy to come on another time, Aaron. Yeah.
yeah, if you watch or listen to this whole episode and you have more questions specifically for Rob, send those to me, and then the next time we chat, we'll just directly hit those to you with people who listen and have more questions specifically about maybe what's going on with them. And so we'll do that next time. Don't know when that next time will be because by the time this episode comes out, I'll have a little baby in my life, but we'll sort it
Wow.
out and it'll be all good. So that'll be a celebration as well when I see Rob the next time. But where should people go, Rob, if they just want to check out your work real quickly? We'll link that in the show notes below.
Cool, man. Yeah. So my name is Rob Kancler, Kancler. And you can, Google me, find me wherever. RobKancler.com is my website, at Rob Kancler on socials. One thing that can be relevant for people to know about and also maybe even support what you're just saying of them tossing questions over. We made an assessment. If you go to bedroomcompass.com, and it's basically just laying out what are the building blocks of a fulfilling sex life. So like what are the actual universal building blocks of great sex lives and where do I stand with that? And it's very helpful for people to really look at like what is this even made of? The thing that I want, what is it even made up out of? So that's a great resource for people and it's free. It takes like 10 minutes. And yeah, so bedroomcompass.com, that's a resource that is around. And if people take it, it might inspire some questions of being like, what was that about? Or I want to ask them about this.
Super. Sounds awesome. Well, Rob, appreciate the conversation, dude. And thanks for the work you're doing in the world.
Thank you. And congratulations, Aaron. Congratulations to you and your wife.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.